come to order. It's Wednesday, May 15, 2013. Our first order of business is to open up a public hearing on House Joint Memorial 17. I'm going to ask Representative Widener to come forward, please.
And, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, HJM 17 urges Congress to direct the Pentagon to reopen and review Leonard DeWitt's nomination for Medal of Honor for heroic acts during World War II. There is no revenue and no fiscal impact.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, State Representative Jim Widener, House District 24, representing most of Yamhill County and quite a bit of Washington County now, so with redistricting. Here in regards to HJM 17, to my right here is the gentleman that we're all here and listening to this bill about. I had a chance to meet with Lieutenant Colonel retired Leonard DeWitt, who's to my right here, on February 12th of this year at the Governor's Office for the Oregon World War II Memorial Honor Day. As an honorary board member, he spoke at this event and mentioned that he lives in McMinnville. After meeting him and his wife, we began talking about how Leonard DeWitt was nominated for the Medal of Honor for his actions in defending the U.S. position on Papua New Guinea against the massive entrenched Japanese fortifications. During this encounter, Leonard DeWitt took personal initiative, single-handedly attacking the Japanese troops before they could sweep his company off the ridge. He engaged in a brutal hand-to-hand combat to protect his fellow soldiers and maintain the American position. Due to these heroic actions, the commanding general of the 6th Army approved the nomination of Leonard DeWitt for the Medal of Honor, stating, "Sergeant DeWitt's conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty are worthy of the highest recognition." Unfortunately, for reasons not fully understood, this request for Leonard DeWitt's Medal of Honor nomination languished on the desk of General Douglas MacArthur. Leonard DeWitt, however, received the Distinguished Service Cross, the United States Army's second highest honor. You may wonder why he and his family are seeking the Medal of Honor after all these years, but Leonard DeWitt wants to honor all Oregonians who have served under the 41st Infantry Sunset Division, the 41st Infantry Sunset Division, by giving the Distinguished Award to the museum in their honor. His continued thoughts of honoring all those servicemen who fought alongside him has propelled him to action, and today he is here inspired by the current Oregon veterans who have served their country under the same division. Society needs heroes, and his narrative encompasses the best of American ingenuity and coolness under pressure. His story of success against devastating odds can inspire all of us to invoke a collective memory of national sacrifice and honor that can be passed down through the generations of future Oregonians. Talking with him, even briefly, with the casual demeanor imparts a confidence to face any obstacle. I can think of a few more deserving this type of attention than Leonard, who's here with us today. We were honored, humbled, and excited to work for such a worthy cause and recipient. HJM 17 urges Congress to direct the Pentagon to reopen and review Leonard DeWitt's nomination for the Medal of Honor for heroic action during World War II. Since we are fortunate enough to have Leonard DeWitt here today, I will allow you to hear from him the recount and his heroic action that took place during World War II.
Thank you, Representative. Mr. DeWitt, please go ahead. I need you to state your name for the record, please.
You get to go ahead. State your name for the record and tell them your story.
Well, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Leonard C. DeWitt, Army retired. Where should I start? First, I'll say this looks like quite an august assembly. I'm too honored to be here for this hearing.
Yeah,
and
huge channels. I wouldn't have a clue.
So we have prepared, and I hope you got one, a couple of pages that I tried to sketch the situation that faced me at the time that I got involved in this fracas. And I think if you look on page 1, you see that I Company of the 41st Infantry that I was with at the time had succeeded in gaining a position that was just a short distance, like 150 yards or so, from the bulk of the part of this huge Japanese emplacement that was protecting a naval base down to the left of the Salomon Peninsula, which they did not want to give up. We wanted it, but they didn't want us to have it. So, and it was about 20 miles south of Leh, which was a big naval base situation. So all this was very critical to the Japanese, and they had had months to prepare this monster position that covered all of the Salomon Peninsula, and which was around 1,300 yards long by maybe 1,000 yards wide or so. And the 162nd came up at a little village called Boise down to the right, if you check the map. And we started in from there, trying to work our way up the sides of these slopes to get up in there with the Japanese. It was impossible. They had dug that in so much, built so many bunkers, the steep slopes. We kept trying one, try them after another, and we'd go back up again for about several weeks. This whole campaign against that peninsula lasted 76 days and nights. And without let up, we were either hitting them or they were hitting us. And down at Boise, we had some artillery down to the west and some heavy mortars, 2 battalions or batteries of artillery. And so when we got up and finally managed to get down a place called Scout Ridge that led from back inland down into this big Japanese holding, that was a little flat top thing about 75 yards long by 50 yards wide, and very steep sides, luckily, and sloping from their positions to ours and then back to the rear. So we got in there and we dug in and we found an old tree, and as soon as they found out we were there, they started shelling us and shooting at us and everything like they usually did. And jungle foliage doesn't take much to make it fall down and go to pot. It's very soft stuff. So from their artillery fire and shooting at us, we soon had no cover left on this hill. It was all bare, except for this big tree, which all was left finally was a stump. And we had a nice artillery position, observation post, put up in that stump, where a guy named Turner could get up in there and direct the fires of these artillery batteries that down below us. Well, that was probably one of the best pieces of success that we had up to that point. We'd been constantly driven back by the Japanese, and here we were, a little outfit, about 63 people, holding a place where we could get up in a tree stump and look out and kind of get a look at what they were doing and shoot off their cover and concealment. And this artillery observer of ours started in, and he soon had it very dangerous for the Japanese to even walk around in their own area back there. Well, they pretty quick realized that as soon as we moved in, within about a day or so, they hit us hard. They came right down the slope from their positions, and in about 45 minutes of brutal fighting, we managed to drive them off. They happened to hit one of our strong points right in the front where we had a machine gun and people to support it. Well, they decided to try it again, I guess, because instead of coming down the slope or the ridge, which left them open to our fires, they came down around the sides and come up over the side, around the side. Well, I happened to hear this ruckus going on. I was about halfway back in a foxhole with the first sergeant. We had the company commander to the rear of us and another lieutenant over here. And we kind of divided up the responsibilities that way and for keeping track of what was going on. And with about 60 of us in this perimeter, we barely had enough people to cover what we had. So it's pretty critical we not lose anything. And when I heard all this ruckus going on up to my front, I got up out of the hole. I told the first sergeant where I was going. And when I got there, I caught 4 guys leaving, which was pretty bad. And in the dark, I asked them what's going on, and they said, well, we got a guy here that's wounded. We got to get him back to the aid station. And they ducked around me and took off. Well, I went over to see what 4 guys had left, and I found 2 foxholes there, and down below was this big loudmouth Japanese yelling his head off, giving orders, and I could hear people hanging on to these bushes and things pulling themselves up out of the bottom. And this was very alarming. I figured we're probably done for. But anyway, when I checked these guys' positions, they'd left a few grenades, and they'd also left a nice BAR sitting there on a tripod, bipods. A BAR, for those of you who don't understand, it's a big, heavy gun. It fires full automatic like a machine gun, and you can walk around with it shooting it. So I picked the thing up. I went over to where I heard these jokers coming up the sides, and I proceeded to get in their face with this big BAR. And I could hear them going back down the hill and falling and yelling and things like that. And which irritated the heck out of this big loudmouth that was down there in the bottom. He had a good voice, big, heavy bass voice that he could shout orders with, you know, and I didn't dare try to, I want to tell him his emperor slept with boys or something like that, but I figured my voice would sound like a little girl's.